Davida.
We're the two Pilates Chicks, and it is season 6, episode 8.
Yes.
It's a doozy. How do we want to start this one?
Well, we are re-chatting about boundaries.
In a very unique way, I think.
Yeah.
It was brought to our attention by a friend and a fellow teacher who's been teaching a very long time.
Yeah.
And we were chatting about how these situations used to not come up so much.
Yeah.
But if you think about the politics in our world today, it's being brought into the studios.
And more and more and more.
More and more. And things that weren't being talked about before are now being talked about in a place that it's probably not appropriate to be talking about it.
Not appropriate and not the most comfortable environment.
No. And I think to get, it's like this, we're not going to speak about, oh, this is our thought process political wise, or this is what, but it's just about, as a teacher, feeling safe and supported, like you said, in our space before we started. Mm-hmm. And this teacher was being made to feel very uncomfortable by the client in terms of what his politics were, and then pretty much attacking her personally in terms of her not having critical thinking and saying she had derangement syndrome.
Based on what her politics are.
Mm-hmm. And it really it's like an abusive relationship is what we were, like, she was made to feel bad and cry, and not in front of the client, but question her own, am I doing the right thing? Mm-hmm. Should I fire this client? So it just brought up a lot for us because we've been in the position as well. Yeah.
We've experienced the same and similar things throughout the years.
Yeah. Whether it's politics or religion or, being kind of, as a woman, being with, clients that are
put into an uncomfortable conversation or scenario. And so, this idea of having boundaries as teachers, like we've talked about previously about like work boundaries and when to
your time and
self-care.
Your pay.
Yeah, all those sorts of things. But this one is really important because it is, as we said, becoming more and more common. And we do just want teachers to be able to feel safe and supported in our studios or whatever space we're teaching in. And it really should be, our studios should be an environment where the teachers feel good, the clients feel good.
Yes.
The whole point is for clients to come in, have a session, and leave feeling better than when they came in.
Yes.
And so part of that can sometimes be building a relationship with a client where we get more comfortable with them over the years and the clients get more comfortable with us. But when that becomes a problem is when a client feels they can talk to us in certain ways that are just not appropriate.
Right. And it's almost like when I was talking to my husband about it, it's like when it becomes a question of like, why do they think it's okay to talk to me that way? Mm-hmm. Where you're made to feel belittled or, not smart or you don't know what you're talking about in terms of things. And it's like not a good feeling. And you're like, why am I feeling this way? Like when we're talking about gaslighting.
Yeah.
Because you're like, did they really just say that? Was that what they meant?
Like, did I hear that?
Yeah. What did they mean by that? Oh, I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah.
But you had a good point when we were chatting about this is like, you can have a client for years and years and years and years, and those little moments are coming, but you kind of brush them off. And then they kind of go, oh, I can step over that line, so I can go to this line. Now I can step over that. And then all of a sudden it's like too much.
Yeah. It like snowballs. It becomes bigger and bigger. And that's the scenario that I had with one couple that I taught. That was a similar scenario to what we heard from this teacher that was talking to us about this specific incident. And so for the couple that I was teaching, our politics didn't align, but that was fine for years. And I would just hear what they had to say and it was okay. And I was a younger teacher at the time, but then I taught them for like almost 10 years. So,
you grew up.
I grew up. And for a long time, I thought like, okay, well, I'll just hear what they have to say and then move on in the session. It's fine. And that can be fine for somebody depending on what it is the client's saying or how much it affects the teacher.
Exactly. Everybody's different.
Everyone's different. And so, but it can come to a certain point, like it did for me, where at a certain point they finally said something where I was like, that's crossing a line. I'm not okay with that. And so I finally stopped teaching those clients. And it's really hard to fire clients,
especially when you've had them for a long time, and it's like and I've had the same thing in a different scenario where it was like someone that I taught for a very long time, and my husband had to say, you need to figure this out because you come home after teaching this client and you're miserable, and you like you said, it saps
takes all your energy.
So it's kind of like you have to, but you've been putting up with it for so long. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, what?
Yeah. It's like, well, what is, like, to them it might seem like it's a sudden, like all of a sudden you're not available for them anymore. But it's, for you as the teacher, it's been lots of little moments that have added up to this moment of it being like, that it's the straw that broke the camel's back or however that goes. It's that last moment of like, okay, I'm done. Yeah. Like I can't deal with this anymore. And it's like how much is it affecting you outside and beyond the studio?
Or into your next session. You know, it's like you've got other clients and you've got to be there for them. And how much does it affect the rest of your day with the other clients?
Yeah. Because it's not fair for those next clients for us to either be completely drained or grumpy, upset in some way, and for that to be constant. And then for our partners or family or whatever that you go home to then still be rattled by whatever this experience was in the studio. And then it's like, how much beyond that session is it affecting you? And is that still worth it? And for everybody, it's different.
And I think like the teacher we're talking about, it happened on a Friday. And so she spent the weekend kind of thinking, well, what is it I want to do? And what is it? Is it okay? Am I going to fire him? What, and so she took time to kind of see how it was affecting everything and decided that that was enough for her and she wasn't going to teach him anymore. Yeah. So it's kind of having that talk with yourself.
It's important to do that. And maybe you do it multiple times because like for me, having those clients for like a decade, I definitely had multiple conversations with yourself. Where they would say something and then I would go home and think like, okay, am I okay with that for right now? And like, for a long time it was okay, whatever, next, okay, next, okay, next. And then finally that moment where it's like, okay, no, that's it. And so it's important to think, okay, where are my values? What am I comfortable with? What am I okay with? And how much is it affecting me?
Yeah. And I think when you talk about, because there's, if you just take the politics out and think more of like, as teachers, we're people pleasers. We have empathy. The reason we got into teaching was to share this because it helped us, or we've seen how Pilates can change people. And so we kind of have this ability to kind of have this empathy for all people. And so I think a lot of times it can just be they stepped over a line that you're like, morality-wise, is not okay with you either.
Yeah. And yeah, it can be anything. It's not just politics, though right now in the landscape, it's very inflammatory. It's very divisive and divided. And it is just very prevalent right now. But this can be for anything. And like we were saying before, like politics, finances, and religion used to be the taboo topics. Like
you just didn't talk about it.
It was just respectful to not talk about it.
And I still believe that.
I do too.
It's like it's like we're in here to do Pilates and we're at a party. It's like that's just not a conversation that's appropriate.
Yeah. But, I mean, it is just more and more common. And
I think social media also gives people
yeah,
this ability to think they can speak to people a certain way because they're behind this screen social media-wise, and they can, like, spew out whatever they want to say and not have any...
Well, there's no repercussions. Because you don't see how you're affecting the person. But then face-to-face, it's different. But I think people get so used to that.
Exactly.
That then it changes how we act face-to-face. And so in a professional environment like our studio, when we are the professional and we're having a client come in
to teach them,
like, to provide a certain particular service. And it just, we do want to help them in whatever way. So sometimes people do need to vent and talk about something to get it out, and sometimes that can be appropriate and sometimes not.
Yeah.
And especially if someone's talking about politics and in a way that we don't agree with, that can be okay if you're comfortable with it.
And they're not attacking you personally.
Exactly.
That's the line that got crossed in that.
Yeah.
And with you too. It's like you can't, you can have those, like, because, like, the teacher was saying, she's like, I'm fine, like, you know, talking politics, but, like, in a structured,
have a
factual discussion, but not being attacked for the way she thinks or that something's wrong with her.
Yeah, and being called names. Being personally attacked for your viewpoints, and that's just not okay. And that wouldn't be okay in any workplace if it's another colleague or a customer. And it's the same in the studio. Yeah. If it's another teacher saying that to a teacher or a client saying it, it's just not appropriate.
And I think what you were saying is about, like, we are people pleasers. And so there is that. And especially, like, you're a newer teacher or you're in a studio and you're an employee. Yeah. And it's like, is it okay for me to complain about this client who maybe comes multiple times or, you know, it's a huge part of your, you know, income or whatever it is. So it's like, these are things that's like, can make people not want to, like, make that decision in terms of getting that client out of their schedule. Yeah.
I mean, and for me, similar, like, I had these 2 clients, and so each one had a private, so that's 2, and then they would do a duet, so that's 3 sessions a week. And so you think, okay, for, like, my own business as a teacher, that's that income. And then, like you're saying, at a certain studio, if they don't want to lose that business or a private club, like, sometimes that can get a little sticky there because they're members of the club and you're an employee and they're still going to be members there. So it can be really challenging. And so, especially if the employer is not supportive. Yeah.
And luckily, you and I have been in the instances where they were supportive. But that happens.
It can be really challenging. And so it's all of those are factors that the teacher needs to think about, like, how much did this affect me? How much is this not okay with me? Like, what path do I want to take to move forward from this? And sometimes it is just moving forward and being like, you know what, whatever, I'm just going to trudge along and keep going.
And some people have a thicker skin than others. Some people are like, or, you know, but what you don't want to do is have it where it is affecting, like we've been talking about, where you're going home crying or you're going home feeling less than, or like you did something wrong, or, you know, questioning yourself.
Yeah. And that, for me, with those clients, that was what I did for a long time. I felt like I was being complicit in what they were saying and questioning my own self, you know? And that's so not okay. And that it just affects so much beyond, like we're saying, just that session.
Well, it is like being in an abusive relationship in terms of, it's not just that moment with that person, it's affecting everything in your day after.
Yeah.
And
how you're seeing yourself, your own confidence.
You feel, because we want to come into the studio and teach our clients and feel confident and feel safe and feel like they're there to work with us and not attack us.
Yeah.
In terms of whatever it is.
Whatever topic it is. Yeah.
And I think one of the things we were talking about kind of a little bit was kind of tips on how to handle that situation. Because, like, if you were, like, you know, you got to go to your, you know, boss and say, hey, and they backed you up. But if it's your studio or you're self-employed, or, you know, how you handle that.
Yeah. And it depends on the relationship of that client and teacher. It depends on the personality of that teacher and of that client.
Yeah.
And so it's very different for every situation. And it kind of depends on what the thing is that's making the person so uncomfortable, like how egregious this thing is. Because there's certain blatant things that are like red flag, like, no, do not keep teaching that person. No. If there's like any sort of like physical or sexual abuse, of course. Exactly. That's a like hard, like,
hard no.
But the reason these conversations are hard to figure out is because of how, like we're saying, how inflammatory politics are right now.
It's so not black and, I mean, it is. It's just so much nuance to it.
Yeah. There's not a right and a wrong. It's not black and white. There are nuances, and that's why it's important for the individual to reflect on what really matters to them and what this situation is doing to them.
Yeah.
And so
I think that's the key. Is how is it affecting you as the teacher in terms of how you feel about yourself in your space, and how it makes you feel after teaching them, and in that moment.
Yeah. It's almost like residue, you know, when you like wipe off.
Yeah.
Like there's some like residue left on the glass or something.
And you can't get it
off.
You
just can't get it off. So like how long is the residue of that session affecting you for the rest of the day?
How dirty is that glass? And for how long?
For how long? Yeah. But like basically we do not have to have a conversation with a client about something that makes us uncomfortable.
No.
About whatever it is, we don't have to have that conversation. And so, like, we were coming up with a couple of different tips where we were calling...
Like, the deflection.
Yeah.
Like...
We're saying, like, a direct deflection is just like, well, this is your Pilates time. Yeah. Let's talk about Pilates.
Yeah. Let's leave that out there.
Yeah.
And this is about you right now. And I think you were making the point about... These kind of tips depend on, the relationship with the client and how comfortable you are with being very direct.
Yeah. So your own personality.
Your own personality. And some are really good at being direct. It's like, nope, not going to talk about it. Let's move. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's
go. That's like, so a very direct statement. Like, nope, I don't want to talk about this. This makes me uncomfortable. Or, no, I don't agree.
And there's nothing wrong with saying that.
Yeah.
Because maybe they don't know that.
Yep. Maybe they don't.
And then they stop.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, I didn't realize I was making you uncomfortable. Yeah. And then there's also like a subtle redirection, which tends to be what I gravitate towards which is more of like, maybe you just kind of ignore, you just let them finish their statement. You just kind of ignore what they said. And you're like, oh, I really like your glasses. Where'd you get those?
Okay, moving to the window chair.
Oh, we're coming over. Let's come to the reformer now.
It's like just ignoring and just redirecting in a very subtle way where they're like, oh, okay.
Like, and just changing what's happening at that moment. And like whether it's a subtle redirection, a very direct statement, or just kind of like deflecting, it just depends on how, like what the situation is and how you feel.
And like and then that's stuff you do like in the beginning, right? That's stuff that's like right in the now. But when you get to like the situation where you have been and I have been and this teacher was, I mean, that's at the tail end where it's like, okay, the decision now has to be made because probably the direct has been done. Yeah. The subtle has been done. Yep. And now it's like, okay, this isn't.
It's ongoing.
Yeah, it's ongoing. Because maybe you do the direct right then and there and it's like, it solves it. It's done. They're like, oh, okay, she's uncomfortable with this, so I'm not going to do this.
Yeah. And like you're saying, maybe it solves it for that session. Yeah. But then maybe it comes back. Or within that session, they just ignore what you're saying and keep doing that.
And then there's that, okay, now what?
So now, what's the next step then? Yeah. And that's when the teacher then has to take the reflection time and be like, okay, what do I need to do for this?
Yeah.
Like, what am I okay with?
Yeah. And I think it's funny because I've had situations, and I'm sure you're the same, where you get a client and it's almost like you're on your best behavior in the beginning as a client, right? And you're like, oh, blah, blah, blah. Then they get more comfortable. So then it can change in terms of they're more comfortable saying things or things that make you uncomfortable in terms of whatever it is, but you've had them for a long time.
Yeah.
But it wasn't in the beginning that way.
Right.
But it has changed because the relationship has changed and they feel more comfortable.
Yeah. And that's partially what I had with my couple, where as for my specific example, as the political landscape was changing and as this couple's thought process was changing and as like things just developed over time. And that's, I mean, it's just what it is, you know, and that's okay. It's at a certain point, it just something needs to change.
Yeah. And I remember it's like, there's where you have someone who has a different thought process than you, which is fine in terms of whatever it is. But there's this moment where it becomes twisted in terms of now you're being made to feel uncomfortable. Now it's not about just, oh, your view is different than mine.
Or sharing the ideas.
Ideas or whatever it is. Now it's become, oh, I'm feeling this inside of my body and it's not a comfortable feeling.
Yeah. And that's when it becomes not okay.
Not okay.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I never thought, because we have the teacher training students, and it's never kind of been a thought process. I mean, we talk about scope of practice and code of ethics.
Yeah.
And we talk about boundaries with, you know, oh, make sure they respect your time and you are worth this pay. But it's kind of like, wow, this is a whole new kind of scene that's starting to pop up over the past so many years.
Yeah.
That we didn't have to deal with, really.
It hadn't been a thing because people did, I don't want to say people had more respect before, but people had more of those social taboos of you just don't talk about A, B, and C.
And I think it's just a totally different environment in terms of what people think they can. They can talk about in a kind of a setting that it's just not an appropriate time to talk about it.
Yeah.
It's your Pilates session. You're in a Pilates studio. It's about your health. It's about movement. It's about this. And so I think that, you know, is something that's relatively new. And becoming more of an issue for teachers.
Yeah. I mean, and also you can agree with the client's political views and stuff too. And we have this situation now too where people will start talking about politics.
Because they want to vent.
They want to vent. They know, maybe they do know you share the same
They feel
viewpoints.
safe venting with you.
And then, but you're like, well, I don't want to hear about it. Like, it makes me too anxious. I don't want to hear about what's going on right now.
Because for you and I, this is our safe space. We're like, we don't want to know what's going on in the outside world when we're here.
We're in the studio, we're teaching client to client, and I just want to be here with my people. And so it's okay to feel uncomfortable talking about something that you even do agree with.
Yeah.
It's not just when you have a different viewpoint. And so that's also okay to say, you know, I really don't want to talk about this.
Yeah, I can't handle
it. Like, I just can't. Or saying, you know, I'm seeing in your body that you're getting, like, rigid and, like, stressed as you're talking about this. That's not good for your practice. We're here to move out of that.
Yeah.
So let's breathe, and then maybe giving them something either very complicated where they really have to focus and they can't talk, or making them slow down and really breathe and like ease through it.
Well, I think also we talked about this in terms of like for your teaching, right? You might have 5 clients, and each client's coming in and venting. Well, they're just venting in that moment, but for us, it's like the 5th time that day that it's been brought, and you're like, oh, I can't,
like, oh my God.
I can't do this anymore. And I have a client, you know her, that, you know, she's very upset about things in the world, and so she does want to come in, and it's like I had to say, we talk about this in here. We've got to just, and she's been it took a while for her to understand.
To get out of that.
And so now she knows when she comes in, okay, I'm not going to talk about how upset I am. And because, she got more riled up, like you said.
It gets them more riled up. And that's a good practice for her to be able to compartmentalize.
Exactly.
And be like, okay, I'm in here.
It's a safe place. I can breathe. I can move. I cannot think about all that stuff going on.
Instead of it just being a continuation of the whole rest of the day. Of still talking about it. And for us, it's like, if we're letting all the clients do that, client 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 throughout the day, we're like, okay, we're hearing the same stuff over and over and over. And that's just not good for our health either.
No.
Even if you're agreeing with what these people are saying.
No, and I think it's like, it's twofold, right? It's like, you're not going to, obviously that's a different situation because you're not going to fire a client, because they'll definitely stop talking, I would think.
Yeah, they'll probably be
respectful. But it reminds me of something I read and talked about, like if you had a bad day and then you kept telling everyone about your bad day, like over and over and over and over, you're just reliving it.
Yeah.
And it's just staying with you.
Yep.
And you're not like letting it go. And we want them to come in and let everything go and be in the moment and not replaying what's going on.
Yeah.
But I think it's hard for teachers to understand it's okay to set this boundary.
Yeah.
But in extreme cases, it's a lot harder.
Yeah. In the extreme cases of, okay, this client's actually being verbally abusive.
They're making me feel bad about myself.
Just because of my beliefs. And that's not okay.
Not okay.
And in that case, we always say as a new teacher, it's good to try to not fire clients just because you're annoyed with them or don't like them.
That's,
but if
that happens.
And that happens. But if you're being made to feel badly about yourself or what you believe,
or who you are,
and if you're having personal attacks put on you by a client, that's not okay.
No.
And that is 100% okay to fire a client, to not work with them anymore. And if you can deal with it, it's okay to keep teaching them if you want to too. I mean,
where's that line? I mean, it's just where the line is for you in terms of your mental health and how you feel in your space.
Yeah.
I also think you have to like with this one teacher, they weren't in a crowded studio. But it's like you have to also think about the other teachers in the space and the other clients in the space.
Yeah. And when you're in a shared space, that makes it even more inappropriate to be talking about those sorts of things.
Because you don't know what other people's opinions are, lives are, or
what they've experienced.
What they've experienced.
Yep.
What they've been through.
Yeah. And I think in a private setting, often people feel more leeway where they can say more. So it, again, just depends on, where you're teaching and the environment of where people will push those boundaries. But it happens everywhere.
Yeah.
Regardless. And especially the people that are not respectful will say what they think no matter who is around.
Yeah.
So we just do need to be able to take the reins and say, you know what? No.
Not okay. Yeah. And it can be scary. Like we were talking about, we're not ones to enjoy confrontation. Some people are.
Yeah.
But, those moments are really difficult, but I feel like they're moments where you learn the most and you're like, okay, I'm a stronger person now because they took care of me.
Yep. Definitely. And then you know how to handle it the next time. Hopefully not next time, but
hopefully not.
When that inevitably happens. And then when you get somebody off your schedule that has been just draining you, it is surprisingly nice.
Feels so good.
Where you don't realize how much they were emotionally affecting you until they're out of your daily schedule, and then it's relieving.
Yeah, and that's a good point because sometimes when you're in it, you don't realize how much. Other people might be able to say, oh, I notice after you're just like this and you're like, oh, you can kind of whatever.
Yeah.
But once you're out of it and then you're like, oh,
that really was affecting
It's like all of a
me.
sudden pulling the glass out and going, it's so shiny and clean.
I go, oh, yeah.
That was a residue that was not coming off all the way. But I think it just made me sad because I feel like we've all been through different scenarios. Maybe not as extreme as our friend was talking about. Some of us have.
Some, yeah.
But it's as teachers, we have to be supportive of each other. And I think also seeing if you have a teacher in the space that's being in that situation is helping them out and maybe helping them find the strength to do what they need to do.
Yeah. Go over pros and cons of firing the client with that teacher, help them reflect on what's needed.
Yeah, just kind of listen to and see what they need without telling them, you have to do this.
Yeah, just helping them, help guide them, help them go through it.
Yeah, because they're probably feeling alone.
Yeah.
And that, and like you said, when you're being gaslit, it's kind of like, is this happening?
Do you think, am I being crazy? Am I being too sensitive?
Exactly. And that's, I think, so like for Pilates teachers, it's like, am I being too sensitive? Am I overreacting? Because we are like wanting to help the client, wanting to be there for the client.
Yeah, exactly.
But not in an abusive relationship.
Nope, you got to take care of yourself.
Yeah, and that's the bottom line.
Yep.
So I don't know. It was kind of a different podcast, but I think it was so important because I feel like so many out there are struggling in terms of things are just a little off the chart.
Yeah, and uncomfortable. And we love what we do, and we want to be able to continue.
Yeah, and to be happy when we go. Like we were talking about, being able to go into your space and being, oh, this is so great. And having clients that want to be there and support and are there for Pilates.
Yeah. Definitely.
Definitely. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So loaded. But yeah, if you have any experiences and you're struggling, then find someone in your studio or you can DM us or email us.
Yep. We'd be happy to help.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we're all in this community together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we want to build a supportive community for Pilates teachers.
Exactly.
And so you guys can find us on Instagram
TikTok,
or our website, YouTube, anywhere that you just type in 2 Pilates Chicks and we'll come up.
I think we're on Threads as well.
Yep.
Yeah. And we finished our May workshop, but if you didn't catch it, we do have the recording still available.
So we still have the virtual recording for it, and we do have CECs assigned for it if you need those.
CECs, and it is guiding clients in pain. And we talked about different kinesiology of it, different kind of
basics of pain science.
Yep, and then case studies. Kind of dealing with different clients that have this issue in terms of what they've been through. But it was a lovely workshop.
Yeah.
And we'll have one in September, but you can go on our website, check everything out, PilatesChicks.com. And that's about it.
And we'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time. Bye.